Hello, my friends. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the autosomal DNA results, predicted phenotype traits, and G25 results of an Iron Age sample from southeastern Bulgaria from this region right here. Looks like this is an intersection of Bulgaria, Greece, and even Turkey. And this sample is from 8th century before the Common Era. His Y-DNA is E1b, which is very interesting. This is a lineage that's associated with North Africa and the Middle East, and but it is quite common in the Balkans as well, and in Greece especially. Greece, Albania, the Balkan region, very common haplogroup for this region. His mitochondrial haplogroup is U8, and we are going to examine the sample right now. His ID is I20181. So in case you want to look up more information about this sample, you can look it up by this ID. With G25, this sample is closest to Italians from Lazio, Umbria, Abruzzo. So essentially, various southern Italians show up closest to this sample, followed by Greeks from Carinthia, Greeks from Apulia. Those are Greeks with the most Middle Eastern-like admixture. So those are southern Greek islanders, not Anatolian Greeks, but Greeks from sort of the Mediterranean area, Eastern Mediterranean Greeks. Those are for the three-way admixture model. This individual scores like a mixture of Albanian, Sardinian, and Dodecanese Greek. So once again, a mixture of sort of Mediterranean plus more Mediterranean. Albanian is kind of more northern shifted, so Albanian is kind of more Balkan. But overall, this person is basically Eastern Mediterranean and very much in line with modern inhabitants of Greece and southern Italy. Um, Thracians were Indo-European speakers, but it is kind of debated what exact branch of Indo-Europeans they fall into. They are not Slavic or Iranic. They might have been Iranic, but it is not exactly determined. They were not Hellenic, but they might have been their own branch of Indo-European, but they were Indo-European speakers. Let's go ahead and look at what this individual scores with my Nashakot and trait predictor in general. We're going to start with Nashakot. So he did score brown hair and brown eyes with Ysec, and he actually scores hazel or brown eyes with Nashakot as well. What's interesting, there's very low percentage for blue eyes, quite low for blue eyes with an amber center in green. 4.8% odds for dark brown eyes, but most likely he's got hazel or brown eye color. So most likely he's got intermediate or heterozygous genotype for BH2 and BH3 and BH1, based on what I see here, but we're going to find out in a couple seconds. He's got dark brown hair at 89% likelihood, and he's got olive or Mediterranean skin. I always mispronounce that. You guys in the comments point that out all the time, that I mispronounce olive. I say olive, I'm supposed to say olive. So he's got olive skin tone, dark brown hair, and hazel or brown eyes. And for hair texture, he's actually scoring straight or wavy hair texture. For nose shape, he is scoring Greek shaped nose, so more of a long and aquiline nose shape. And for coloring related variants found in the file, he's got two light color variants here. So that already tells me that he's probably going to score something lighter with Snipper 3, probably green or hazel. And he's got heterozygous in BH2. Okay, so that makes sense. It makes sense why he's got brown classification with Ysec, because heterozygous in BH2. But he does have blue eye haplotype 1, and he doesn't have any light color variance inspiration of HERC2, which is also predictive of BH2. And he also does not have blue eye haplotype 3. Okay, that's very interesting. So based on what I've seen here, probably with Snipper 3 he's going to score green or hazel. We can check that in a couple seconds. He's got two light color variants inspiration of SLC24A5, so light color of skin, and all light color variants inspirations of SLC45A2, so also light pigmentation of skin, eyes, and hair once again. But we want to check what he scores with Snipper 3. I'm expecting it's going to be green or hazel. We can check that right now. Let's look at it right now. Let's look at it right now. And yes, it is indeed green or hazel. So he's scoring green or hazel eyes with Snipper 3, which in reality, if you look at these eye colors, it's not so much green or hazel. It's more of a, I guess, really dark hazel or maybe even light brown. but nonetheless, that is what he scores for eye color with Snipper 3. Let's look at the phenotype oracle. So it looks like the closest phenotypes to this sample are alpinid, which is a very sensible phenotype for somebody from this region, somebody of this ethnicity that is exactly what I imagine a lot of Thracians to look like, followed by this phenotype, which is also very sensible for what I imagine Thracians to look like, followed by this phenotype, which is also incredibly sensible for what I imagine Thracians to look like. Um, Certainly, all three of these phenotypes hit the mark. Now, for the 2A admixtures of phenotypes, it makes sense when you consider them, dynamically, or I guess in relation to each other. For example, this phenotype has very long, aquiline, narrow nose, and this phenotype has the opposite of that, more of a potato features. So they kind of cancel each other out, and you end up. And this phenotype is also very light colored, and this phenotype is rather dark. So they kind of cancel each other out, and you end up having a Mediterranean person in terms of features. Same goes here, but in this case, this person on the bottom is not so potato. Here on the bottom, the person has more of a sharper features. So here, the second admixture model ends up being more sharp. So I guess the result of the first admixture model, I would say, looks maybe like a more potato shifted French person, whereas the result of the second admixture model looks like a Georgian or a Armenian. The result of the third admixture model, it's kind of hard to say because the bottom phenotype looks a little bit potato, especially the girl, but the guy, I don't know. It's kind of hard to judge. It looks South Asian, but it's not very potato because look at the eyes. The eyes are very large and like protruding, bulging. That's kind of like the opposite of potato. But the nose is potato for sure. It's kind of hard to say. The top is very unpotato. The top is the opposite of potato. It's very sharp features, especially on the girl. So it's kind of hard to judge. But overall, you get the gist. The gist, the general trend is that the resulting of these two admixtures on top and the bottom is that it's some kind of a Mediterranean phenotype. That's the result. This fourth admixture, 50% Turanid or whatever this is, Pamidid plus 50% Corded Nordid, this is probably the sharpest result of these five admixtures. This looks, I would say, Georgian or I don't know, Jewish or something. So yeah, so I guess this person looks overall closest to maybe to Italians or to Spanish people. All right, um, let's look at the biomarkers panel, and we're gonna get on to the rest of the result. So it looks like they score a higher level of vitamin D. That's good. A higher level of LDL cholesterol. That's bad. A lower level of HDL cholesterol. That's also bad. A higher level of glucose. That's okay, but it's bad, but it's okay because it's close to the average. A higher level of hemoglobin. That's okay. A lower level of blood pressure. That's good. A higher level of iron in the blood. So it looks like this person actually carries hemochromatosis variants. We can look that up, but we don't need to because we already know that they have hemochromatosis variants because of the score. They have higher level of sex hormone binding globulin. They have lower level of red blood cell count in blood, and they have higher number of base pairs for telomere length. So there is predisposition to a longer lifespan. That's very good. Now they have a higher average height, which is very good as well. So slightly higher predisposition to being taller. Let's look at the polygenic risk scores now. We are going to ignore everything that's close to 1 and only look at the stuff that's very distant from 1. So lower odds of hemoglobin E disease, that's good. Lower odds of migraine, lower odds of gout. Um, Skip over that. Higher odds of cataracts, slightly higher odds of AMD, lower odds of rheumatoid arthritis, that's really good. Slightly lower odds of Tourette's. Very high odds of epilepsy, that's very interesting. So epilepsy is definitely a risk factor for this sample. Very high odds of leukemia, that's also very interesting. So epilepsy and leukemia, we have to watch out for that. Lower odds of myopia. high odds for primary biliary cirrhosis, high odds for male pattern hair loss, lower odds for deep vein thrombosis, high odds for cardiovascular issues, which is very interesting. We've got lower odds for ADHD, we've got lower odds for unipolar depression, we've got very low odds for bipolar type 1, very low odds for schizophrenia, we've got low odds for type 2 diabetes, and we've got low odds for type 1 diabetes. We've got low odds for Alzheimer's, we've got low odds for multiple sclerosis. Really good so far. 4 is for breast cancer at 14, average for prostate cancer, slightly above average for glioma, and 15 risk cancer for testicular cancer at 18, which is really high. And actually, they have heterozygous gene type in keto G, so not that bad actually. It's okay. Heterozygous in keto G is okay. 1 risk cancer for celiac disease out of 8, nothing for GSS. 2 risk cancer for Crohn's out of 20, but none of them are marked as important. 2 risk cancer for Rifenstein's out of 6, which is really high, and it's actually a homozygous call as well. So this is probably not even a miscall, which is very, very interesting. So there is a risk genotype for Rifenstein syndrome. 1 risk variant for Parkinson's, which is very interesting. Nothing else looks like. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else. Yeah, I'm not seeing any other rare conditions here. But what's interesting is the score for epilepsy and leukemia. We're gonna get to that a little bit later. And also the hemochromatosis, the Celtic curse. We're gonna get to that a little bit later as well. Let's go over the results. So it looks like for Warrior versus Warrior, the sample is definitely much more of a Warrior, predisposed to Warrior traits based on COMT, MAOA, and MAOB genotypes. So slower dopamine reuptake and higher dopamine levels, lower stress resiliency, lower activity of the COMT, MAOA, and MAOB enzymes. And for DRD2, looks like they have a predisposition to less dopamine D2 receptor in the brain. And they're scoring that despite not even having any A1 alleles in TAC1. So this is quite an impressive score, scoring 43% for less D2 receptors. It's quite an impressive score for somebody who doesn't have any A1 alleles in TAC1. So the reason they score that is because they have to know go-learner variants. They're just Prof19 Pro. They have this genotype. They have this genotype. They have all these genotypes that lead to lessen the amount of D2 receptors, despite not even having any A1 alleles in TAC1. So it's quite an impressive score, actually. Impressive as in it's rare. Not that it's anything special to have that, but it's rare. It's uncommon. For 5-HT and serotonin, they have a score that's for intermediate or lower levels of 5-HT and serotonin, so slightly higher odds of depression and anxiety. Did I miss anything else? Nah. For autism, they have higher odds of autism, so some predisposition to autism. And for lactose persistence, higher odds of lactose intolerance, so they are most likely not lactose persistent. That is based on these 5 SNPs, and they don't have these 4 SNPs. In these 4 SNPs, they don't have a single allele. They don't have a single allele for lactose persistence. And they are still scoring this. So there's still a 50% chance of, maybe they are lactose persistent. That's the way my trait predictor works with lactose persistence. It's very tolerant of people being lactose persistent. It does not say you are lactose persistent if you lack some allele. It's very tolerant. It is impossible to score more than 50% for high odds of lactose intolerance with my trait predictor, regardless of what genotypes you have. So that's the way it works, because I realize that most people in the world have the same genotype as this. Most people in the world don't have any alleles for lactose persistence, and most people in the world do not have any problem digesting milk that is processed. So taking that into consideration, that's the way I built my trait predictor. I did take that into consideration, and that's why it works the way it does. For the empathy gene, he is scoring average level of empathy based on these 5 SNPs. And for hemochromatosis, that's exactly what I was saying for the biomarkers panel. He does have 2 copies of the H63D variant, and that was apparent from the biomarkers panel because he was scoring very high for the level of iron. So there you go. The high score for the level of iron was because of the hemochromatosis variants. Okay, for Alzheimer's, no risk variants for Alzheimer's and APOE. For multiple sclerosis, no risk for multiple sclerosis in the HLA gene, which is really good to see. For cardiovascular issues, predisposition to intermediate odds of cardiovascular issues, which is really good to see as well. So I do remember he was scoring 1.4 times the average odds for cardiovascular issues for the polygenic risk score panel. That is not because of this panel. That is because of the MTHFR and the homocysteine level panel, which we're going to get to later. Okay, for the facial morphology, all European genotypes in EDAR, all three variations in EDAR, he is scoring European genotypes for all three of them. So European facial morphology, he's got lower odds of missing teeth, he's got nose drooping down, larger nose size, and he carries the micropenis mutation. This is going in a thumbnail. He's got the micropenis mutation. Let's go. So this is quite common with these 1240K files that they carry the micropenis mutation. At this point, this is no surprise to anybody when you see this. This is a very common miscall, very common genotyping error with these 1240K files. These academic files very commonly have this miscall. So this is really no surprise to anybody at this point. But it's always very fun to watch this and see this show up in these files. So yes, he does carry the micropenis mutation. It's very funny. He's got mix of muscle types, like sprinter and endurance athlete. He's got 2 variants for increased pain sensitivity. That's rare. That's uncommon. Okay. Two risk variants for pain hypersensitivity out of 2 total on SCN9A. That's really uncommon. Okay, and his risk for heart failure due to beta blocker medications is slightly higher than average. Let's see what else. I don't really want to talk about any of this stuff here. For albinism, does not carry any risk variants for albinism. Really good to see. For familial Mediterranean fever, no risk variants for anything like that. For MTHFR panel, he's got no risk variants for that. No, for MTHFR, he does have risk variants for impaired folate metabolism in here and in here, and that actually affects the homocysteine panel quite a lot. So if you look at the homocysteine panel, which we're going to look at in a couple of seconds, we can look at it right now. Yeah, the homocysteine panel is looking really bad. So he's scoring 50% for the elevated homocysteine levels. This is really bad, and that is because actually not only because of the MTHFR panel. That's also because of the CBS panel, where he's got genotypes for all 4 genotypes lead to highest levels of plasma homocysteine. So that's really horrible. Yeah, so not only does he have risk variants for high level homocysteine in the MTHFR panel, he also has risk variants for that in the CBS panel as well. So that's really messed up. So that increases the odds for certain conditions such as stroke, artery disease, stuff like that. Anything that has to do with blood, blood conditions, blood thickening up in the arteries and veins. Okay, so for cancers panel, he's got predisposition to lower or intermediate odds of epithelial cancers. That is based on 8q24 region. And we can look at some of these genotypes. Let's see, does he have anything that's... So he does have some risk variants here. He's got some here. And overall, he doesn't really have that many risk variants. He has the genotype which leads to no protection from ovarian cancer. So there are some risk genotypes, but overall the result is quite good. Okay. For leukemia panel, he was scoring very high for leukemia, and that makes sense because this genotype leads to 4 times increased risk for leukemia. This genotype leads to increased risk of leukemia as well, so it makes sense why he was scoring the way he is for leukemia. For rare diseases in traits panel, let's look. So we see increased risk for rheumatoid arthritis, but that's it. Yeah, looks like that's it. We don't see any other conditions here. For celiac disease, we don't see any risk variants in HLA, which is really good to see. And okay, for HIV and AIDS panel, he's got 1 protective variant in HLA-C, which is really good to see. So he's got some protection from HIV. And for the HLA gene panel, he's got a predisposition to lower odds of autoimmune conditions. So really good to see. He's got some protection from autoimmune disease in the HLA gene. Now for the homocysteine panel, we have already seen that. So he's definitely quite cooked when it comes to homocysteine panel. And for muscular dystrophy hemopathies, he's got 2 risk alleles in this variation. Let's look it up. Is this common? Let's find it out. I have a feeling this will be common. Yes, it is common. Yeah, it is common. and I think you have to do more research to find out what this is implicated in, but it seems to be common. And he does not have any risk credits for ADL out of 8 total. Really good to see. So for color blindness, he's got 1 risk credit and OPN 1 is W. And for obesity panel, he's got lower odds of obesity based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SNPs. For syncope panel, he's got um, predisposition to lower odds of syncope based on 4 SNPs, which is pretty good to see. Okay. And he's got 1 copy of the hunter-gatherer and 1 copy of the farmer COTCL1 gene variant, which leads to intermediate ability to process carbs and sugars. And finally, for the blood group panel, he's got blood type A, which is very, very interesting. Most likely, the most common blood type in the world is type O, but looks like for him, his blood type is actually type A. Blood type O is commonly referred to as the meat eater blood type because it helps with digesting meat and enzymes that are located in meat. But looks like his blood type is type O, type A instead. By the way, guys, thanks for watching my video. By the way, new information about Trade Predictor. You are able to find the link to buy Trade Predictor executable in the link in the description of the video. The sale is over. I ended the sale today. The price is back to $25. But Trade Predictor is going to soon be available in the form of a web application. That's right. I've been working and I have sort of developed it into um, a web application, and it's going to very soon go online, and you'll be able to purchase reports directly from the web without interacting with me, without having to go and send me anything, without having to go and send me your file, and I have to go and analyze it and send you stuff by email. You will be able to just go to this website, and you'll be able to go and upload your file there directly, and you will be able to access your result within minutes. So this is a project I've been working on. Like, I started working on it yesterday because I had so much school. I had to free up from my schoolwork and stuff like that. But recently, I've been working on this project, and it's going good. I'm gonna work on the user interface, of course, make it friendlier, make it more, easier to work with, so that you have an easier time work, because this is what it currently looks like, and it's on my local host. But I'm gonna make sure that it looks friendlier, make sure it looks better, um, so that it's easier for you guys to navigate it. And after I'm done with it, I'm gonna host it on the internet, and there will be an upload web page for Trade Predictor, where you can upload your file and pay me a little bit of money on PayPal and analyze and have your raw DNA be analyzed virtually and get your results within minutes with Trade Predictor. That's going to be really cool. So watch out for that. That's going to come within the next couple of days. Next couple of days, you're going to see that. I'm going to post a video on it. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And goodbye.